Halo, halo? Czy nas słyszycie? To nasz ostatni komunikat. Dziś oddziały niemieckie wkroczyły do Warszawy. Jeszcze Polska nie zginęła.
After a devastating defeat in the September campaign, many Polish soldiers were taken prisoner by the Germans. Some, however, together with the Polish government in exile, fled to France. They very quickly began to be organized into a real army by the Polish government. They were led by Władysław Sikorski, the commander-in-chief of the Polish armed forces. If you are interested in a more detailed description of the formation of Polish troops in France, I've discussed it in detail in my other video, the link to which can be found in the upper right corner of the screen. Today, we will take a look at the fate of Poles fighting in France in the 2nd Rifle Division, 3rd and 4th Infantry Divisions. The 2nd Rifle Division was the second largest Polish unit in France. Its formation began on the 11th of November 1939 in the Parthenay camp. The command was entrusted to Colonel Bronisław Prugar-Kettling. The division was organized on the model of French infantry units and was fully equipped with French uniforms and weapons, including bolt-action rifles, machine guns, field and anti-tank guns, howitzers and mortars. On the 19th of May 1940, the division was transported to Lorraine, close to the German border. Here, equipment was collected and soldiers were hastily trained. However, there were large shortages of military equipment, weapons and uniforms. Some artillery units didn't have any infantry weapons. Ultimately, the division consisted of 15,833 soldiers. Initially, it was believed that the division will fight alongside the Polish 1st Grenadier Division. On the 8th of June, however, it was reassigned to the 45th Army Corps of General Dai, which was a part of the 8th Army. Very hard times await us in the near future. I'm counting on your division. I know Poles, and I know that they will not disappoint my hopes. Mariusz Dai, during a visit to the division on June 13, 1940. The task of the Polish division was to strengthen the area of Belfort, the city fortress. Its fortification began soon after. The 2nd Rifle Division was entrusted with manning the southern section of the defense line. After a few days, however, the French command decided to withdraw from the Belfort area. The units were in danger of being encircled by the German armored units of General Guderian. The French Corps and the Polish division began to withdraw southward through Montbéliard along the Doubs River and the Swiss border to break south. In the south, however, the German units had already managed to capture Besançon and thus cut off the possibility of retreat of the French 45th Army Corps. Polish soldiers found themselves near the Swiss border, cut off from direct contact with the Polish High Command and other Polish units. It was decided to organize a defense on the Clos-du-Deux hills and to face the German troops there. On the 17th of June, the division received an order to man the road junctions in the region of Mèche and Saint-Hippolyte, only a dozen kilometers from the Swiss border. Its task was to defend the border points and let the retreating French troops reach Switzerland. At night, the exhausted Polish troops reached their designated positions. Morale was effectively lowered by the French troops retreating in haste and disorder. The first clashes took place on the 18th of June at 1:30 p.m. In the evening, 2 German battalions with artillery support attacked and captured Mèche. Poles withdrew from the city. New orders were given to withdraw from Mèche and Saint-Hippolyte towards Charleville region. New positions were taken over the night. On the morning of the 19th of June, the Germans, supported by tanks, moved to Don-Richat and Saint-Hippolyte. Polish field and anti-tank guns successfully repelled the initial attacks. However, when all the guns were destroyed, the Poles withdrew from their positions with no chances of effectively fighting the armored units.
The retreat towards the redemptive Swiss border throughout Tuesday and the next night was covered by the heroically fighting troops of Polish legions in France, devoting themselves to the last soldier, so that their French colleagues with their equipment could save themselves.
Swiss daily newspaper Bieler Tagblatt. During these few days of fighting, 41 soldiers of the 2nd Rifle Division were killed, 134 were injured, and 2,544 were missing or taken prisoner. On the night of June 19-20, orders to withdraw to Switzerland were received due to the depletion of almost all ammunition. On the border, Polish soldiers laid over 13,000 weapons and were interned. Initially, Poles were treated equally with the French. In 1941, however, Poles were formally excluded from the French army. The reason was the fact that France was in peace with Germany, unlike Poland, which still remained at war with it. Since the spring of 1941, the Swiss authorities gave up keeping interned Poles in large camps. 8 groups of smaller camps were organized in Swiss territory. Most of the soldiers were sent to work. Initially, they worked on building field fortifications for the Swiss army, and later on roads, the so-called Polenweg. Later, however, the range of their competences expanded to agriculture, bridge construction, forestry, river regulation, mining, peat extraction. For several years of internment, they built, among others, 450 kilometers of roads, 63 bridges, and 10 kilometers of canals. They excavated 70,000 tons of iron ore and 7,000 tons of coal. Poles had the opportunity to study at the Swiss universities. Despite the many inconveniences caused by the internment regulations and the lack of equipment and weapons, the division commander intended to maintain combat integrity and high morale of the soldiers. In October 1940, the commander-in-chief ordered that in the event of an attack on Switzerland by the Germans, Polish division should take part in the defense of that country. It was also expected that in the event of an earlier collapse of Italy, the division would be able to join the Allied forces. If Germany had broken up earlier, it was planned to send Polish soldiers to Upper Silesia via Austria and Czechoslovakia. On August 1st, 1943, the division numbered 10,508 soldiers. On August 17, 1944, the commander-in-chief of the Polish Armed Forces ordered the secret evacuation of Polish soldiers from Switzerland. The commander of the division, Bronisław Prugar-Kettling, sent his representatives to France, who examined the conditions of evacuation and reconstruction of the division. On August 13th in Geneva, he also met a representative of the French resistance movement. The soldiers who wanted to do so were evacuated via France to Great Britain. There, at the beginning of 1945, they formed the 2nd Rifle Brigade. However, it never took part in combat. The 3rd Infantry Division, whose commander was Colonel Tadeusz Zieleniewski, began its formation on the place of the 1st Grenadier Division in Ketki Town camp. On the 27th of May, a battalion of Ketki Town riflemen was separated from its main structure and directed to Arpajon in the Paris region. In mid-June, the division's manpower was 9,600 soldiers. Its formation was never fully completed, but despite this, the French command decided to use the division to defend the Breton redoubt. After heavy fighting, Poles had to withdraw. The broken troops and single soldiers then retreated towards the ports just in time to evacuate on ships to Great Britain. Among them was Adolf Pilch, later a member of Cichociemni unit, the Silent Unseen. They were an elite Polish paratroopers, used in special operations in Poland during the Second World War. This topic is also quite interesting, so if you would like an episode about it, let me know. Since the 19th of April 1940 in Les Sables-d'Olonne, Niort and Fontenay-le-Comte, and since April 24th at the facilities used earlier by the Polish 2nd Rifle Division in Parthenay area, the 4th Infantry Division was formed under the command of General Rudolf Drescher. The officers came from the disbanded units of the 3rd Infantry Division, and the privates were recruited from the remnants of the 2nd Rifle Division and didn't present high combat values. In June, the division numbered about 11,000 soldiers, of which only 3,150 were armed. When the Germans found themselves near the Polish camp and the French command didn't give the Poles any orders, the brigade general reported to his superior, General Władysław Sikorski, that he had disobeyed the French superiors and began a march towards the port of La Rochelle in order to transport his troops to Great Britain. The division began its march along the French Atlantic coast in the search of transport ships. On the night of June 19 to 20, approximately 6,000 soldiers departed from La Pallice aboard the British ship Aldepool. The next night, another group of approximately 3,000 people was transported aboard the French transport L'Auvergne. After the evacuation of troops from France to Great Britain, the formation of the 4th Cadre Rifle Brigade began from the subunits of the 4th Infantry Division that reached the island. Later, it played an important role in creating the famous 1st Independent Parachute Brigade, which fought, among others, in the Battle of Arnhem in 1944. And that's all I wanted to tell you in today's episode, dedicated to the 2nd Rifle Division and the rest of the Polish infantry units fighting in 1940 in France. In the following episode, I'm going to discuss the topic of Polish airmen and tankers fighting in the defense of France. So, if you're interested in these topics, don't forget to subscribe and rate the video. See ya!